I started working at Walmart when I was 19. It wasn't supposed to be long-term, just something to pay for community college while I figured my life out. I worked the night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., stocking shelves and cleaning up whatever messes the day crew left behind. Most nights were uneventful, mindless work. Fluorescent lights, the occasional weird customer wandering in just before closing. You get used to the monotony fast. That's kind of the problem. When something does break the pattern, it sticks in your head. The first time I saw the man from aisle 8, I didn't think much of it. He came in around 2:13 a.m. I remember the time because I had just looked at the clock above the break room to see how much longer I had left. He was wearing a dark gray hoodie, jeans, black shoes, face down. No cart, no basket. Just walked in through the automatic doors like he knew where he was going and headed straight toward the back of the store. He didn't say anything, didn't look around. Just walked past me as I was restocking canned goods and turned down aisle 8. That's the cleaning supplies aisle, mops, bleach, air fresheners, boring stuff. I figured he was looking for something specific. But when I checked again a few minutes later, he was gone. No checkout alert. No beep from the self-checkout lane, just vanished. I thought maybe he changed his mind and left. Maybe he worked there during the day and forgot something. People do weird stuff late at night. But then it happened again, same time the next night. 2:13 a.m. on the dot, the automatic doors slid open. Same man, same clothes, same walk. Straight past me down aisle 8. I peeked around the corner after he turned in. He wasn't browsing, he just stood there, facing the shelves, not moving. Just staring, like he was reading the ingredients on a bottle of bleach without blinking. I waited a minute, then went back to stocking. When I checked again, opening, just gone. It was weird but not creepy, not yet. The third night is when it started to feel wrong. Same time, same guy. I decided I wasn't going to look at him this time. I stayed down in frozen foods, pretending I hadn't seen him. But something made me glance toward aisle 8 after a few minutes. He wasn't just standing there anymore. He was looking at the camera. There's a small dome camera mounted at the end of that aisle, facing down toward the floor displays. It's not noticeable unless you know it's there. But he was staring straight at it. Head tilted up, eyes locked on the lens, not moving, not blinking. I don't know how long he stayed like that. But by the time I looked back again, he was gone, again. I brought it up casually to my supervisor the next morning, Tom. This older guy who'd been there for years and didn't give a crap about anything. Ever see a dude come in around 2 a.m. and just vanish? He gave me a look, this about the guy in the hoodie. That stopped me. You've seen him too. He nodded slowly. Yeah, comes in every few nights. Always aisle 8, then poof. You'll learn not to ask too many questions working nights. You start asking, you end up quitting. He walked off like he hadn't just said the most suspicious thing I'd heard all year. That night I watched the doors. 2:13 a.m., like clockwork, they slid open. Same man. But this time I followed him. I waited until he turned into the aisle, then crept up quietly. When I peeked around the corner, he was already halfway down, staring at the bottom shelf. I took out my phone and started recording. It was dark at the far end of the aisle, which was strange, those lights were always on. He hadn't touched anything, just stood there with his back to me. His head was tilted slightly to the side now, like he was listening. I swear I could hear something too, this low. Soft sound, almost like humming, but not quite. It was more like whispering. I couldn't make out words, it felt like it wasn't meant to be understood. Then he turned. Not just his head, his entire body pivoted fast. Too fast, like it skipped frames in real life. He looked at me. I froze. I expected to see his face, but there was something wrong with it. His eyes looked wrong, like they were too far apart. Or too small, I can't explain it. Like someone had copied a human face, but hadn't gotten the spacing right. And his mouth didn't look like it moved naturally when he blinked or shifted. It twitched like a puppet's jaw. He took one step toward me. I stepped back. Then the overhead lights flickered. When they came back on, he was gone. Not walking away, not running. Just gone. I ran up the aisle. Looked left and right, no one. I went straight to the monitors in the back office. The camera feed for aisle 8 was frozen. Just a still image from earlier in the night. The rest of the store was live, but not that aisle. The last working frame before it cut off. Him standing in the dark, looking at the lens. I checked the system logs. The camera had glitched every single night at 2:13 a.m. for exactly 7 minutes. Always aisle 8. Always the same time. I tried to show the footage I'd recorded on my phone, but when I opened the video, it was corrupted, just black screen and static. Like it never recorded at all. That's when the fear set in. It wasn't just a weird customer. It wasn't someone playing a prank. The store's cameras couldn't see him. Phones couldn't record him. He came and went like he was slipping through a crack in reality. And whatever he was starting to notice me back. After that night, I stopped treating it like a joke. No more casual watching, no more trying to film. I started avoiding aisle 8 altogether. If the clock said anything close to 2:13, I made sure I was either in the break room or on the opposite side of the building. But the problem was, the man didn't seem content to stay in aisle 8 anymore. The next few nights I noticed things. Items moved on their own, bleach bottles knocked off the shelf. Mops placed in the center of the aisle like someone left them mid-step, even though no one had climbed there. Then the walkie-talkie started acting up. Everyone on night shift carried one. Ours were junk, always had some static or crackling, but this was different. Twice while I was stocking the dairy case, I heard it. My name whispered soft like a breath right against the speaker. Eric. No one else claimed to have said it. I started showing up late, leaving early. Took 2 sick days in a row, but that only made it worse. Because when I came back, something changed. The man from aisle 8 didn't just appear at 2:13 anymore. He appeared wherever I was. Once near the back room, once in the freezer section. And once, the worst time, in the employee locker room. I was just about to punch out. Everyone else had left for the night. I walked into the locker room and felt it immediately, a stillness. Like the air had thickened. I turned the corner and saw him standing at the far end. Closer than he'd ever been before. No shelf between us, no lights to dim it. Just me and him, face to face. And this time he smiled. It wasn't a natural smile, his lips pulled too wide. Too slow, like rubber stretching over bone. His teeth were small, too many of them. He didn't move, didn't blink. But I ran. I ran straight out of the locker room. Down the hallway, through the fire door. I didn't care about alarms, I didn't care if I got fired, I just wanted out. No one ever followed up, no manager called about the fire door. No write-up, it was like they didn't even notice I left early. So I did what I probably should have done weeks earlier. I asked questions. I started talking to the day staff. Casually, quietly, asked how long the cameras had been glitching on aisle 8. Asked if they ever saw someone who didn't show up on the monitors. Most of them brushed it off, laughed. Said the place had weird wiring or too many blind spots. But one guy, Pete, from maintenance, didn't laugh. He told me something I still can't get out of my head. That a long time ago, before the store was even a Walmart, the building was something else. A regional warehouse back in the 80s. Maybe earlier there had been an incident. A fire, they sealed off part of the underground section and never reopened it. He said the foundation still had an old storage level, sealed behind a metal door that no one used. Don't go looking for it, Pete said. You don't want to see what's down there. But of course I did, because I knew where the man from aisle 8 went when he disappeared. I'd seen him vanish too many times. No front exit, no side doors. Not even a blip on the camera feed. He had to go somewhere. So on my last shift at Walmart, I waited until just after 2 a.m. I slipped away from the stocking crew and made my way to the back room. I had memorized the layout by now. There was a narrow hallway past receiving that no one ever used. Blocked by 2 empty pallets and a stack of broken down cardboard. Behind it, a metal door. Unmarked, no handle, just a lock. But someone had snapped the bolt years ago. The door creaked open if you pulled hard enough. It opened into a stairwell. Cold air rushed up at me. It smelled like dust and rust and something sweet, like rotting fruit. I clicked on my flashlight and stepped inside. The concrete stairs creaked under my feet. The door closed behind me. I went down 12 steps. At the bottom was another hallway, long, narrow, filled with old shelving units. Empty boxes, broken plastic bins. A few torn employee vests from an older logo. The floor was damp, there were footprints. Fresh ones. They led around a corner, past a set of lockers that looked like they hadn't been used in decades. At the end of the hallway was a large steel panel, halfway pried open. And through the opening I could hear it. That whispering, low, constant, like 1,000 voices overlapping just under the edge of hearing. I pushed the panel aside. Beyond it was a massive storage room. Ceilings 30 feet high, no lights. But my flashlight picked up enough. Shelves lined the walls, but not Walmart shelves. These were old, wooden, stained. And on every shelf there were things. Mannequins, but not normal ones, they were wrong. All of them bent arms, too long necks. Faces that looked like they'd been molded from memory, but never studied closely. Some had mouths, some didn't. Some had eyes painted on wide, black, staring in opposite directions. And in the middle of the room, standing perfectly still, was the man from aisle 8. He was facing away from me, looking up at something on the wall. I should have run, but I stepped forward, and the instant my foot hit the floor, every mannequin head turned toward me at once. Their joints creaked as their bodies followed. The man didn't move, but I could hear him breathing. Slow, deep, heavy. Then with a cracking sound, his neck twisted all the way around without his body moving, and he looked at me upside down. His mouth opened, and the whispering in the room stopped. What came out of his mouth wasn't words. It was a sound like a chorus of voices screaming backward, like static being pulled through teeth. I ran, back through the hallway, up the stairs, out through the door. When I burst back into the stockroom, the lights were on again, the air was normal. I slammed the metal door shut behind me and dragged a pallet in front of it. No one saw me. No one asked why I was covered in sweat, shaking with a busted flashlight in my hand. I quit that night. Didn't give 2 weeks, didn't even wait to clock out, I just left. But that's not the end, because last week I drove by the store at night. I don't know why, curiosity, stupidity. It was around 2:15 a.m. I parked far back in the lot and watched through the windows. And right on schedule, I saw him, walking past the registers, heading toward aisle 8. I watched until he disappeared into the shadows at the end of the aisle. Then I left. I haven't been back since. But I swear, sometimes when I'm alone at home, in the middle of the night, I hear that same soft whisper coming from under the floorboards. I never planned on staying that late, I was just killing time. It was a Thursday night, the end of a long week, and I was dealing with one of those stretches where life just keeps stacking on you. Work stress, family drama, bills piling up, nothing major on its own. But altogether it felt like a slow suffocation. I wasn't ready to go home to my dark apartment, so I drove to Walmart just to wander. That's something I used to do a lot. Go in without a list, aimlessly walk the aisles. Maybe pick up snacks or things I didn't need. It gave me a sense of control or distraction, either one. I got there around 10:30 p.m. The store was mostly empty. Just a few scattered shoppers and a couple of tired-looking employees restocking shelves. I roamed the aisles like I always did, grabbed a Gatorade. Some frozen burritos, looked at clearance electronics. Scrolled on my phone in the toy aisle for no reason at all. Time got away from me. I remember glancing at my phone and seeing it was 11:58 p.m. 2 minutes to midnight. That's when I heard the voice over the loudspeaker. Attention customers, the time is now 12 a.m. and this location is now closed. Please bring your final purchases to the front for checkout. I thought, crap, I lost track of time. I hurried toward the front, expecting to see at least one lane open. But as I turned the corner past health and beauty, I felt a strange silence. The store felt dead. I walked up to the front. Every single checkout lane was empty. No employees, no customers, just rows of blinking, lifeless registers. I walked toward the self-checkouts. The machines were all off, screens black. I looked around for someone, anyone in a vest or pushing a mop, but saw no one. It was like they'd just vanished. I pulled out my phone and checked the time again. 12:04 a.m. I walked toward the sliding doors at the front entrance. They didn't open. I waved my hand in front of the sensor. Stepped closer, backed away, nothing. The doors stayed shut like they'd been powered down. I tried to pry them apart with my fingers, but they were sealed tight, locked. That was the first time I felt that pit in my stomach. Not panic, not yet, just a slow, creeping awareness that something wasn't right. I pulled out my phone and called the store's main number. It rang twice, then went to a generic voicemail. Thank you for calling Walmart. Our store is now closed. Please call back during business hours. I stood there for a minute, in that weird blue-white light that stores like this always have, surrounded by those eerie motionless racks of candy and impulse buys, listening to absolutely nothing. Then I laughed to myself. It had to be a mistake. I'd probably wandered into a part of the store where the closing staff hadn't noticed me. They must have thought everyone was gone and locked up without realizing I was still inside. It was dumb, embarrassing, but I wasn't scared yet. I figured I'd find someone in the back, knock on a stockroom door, or maybe find a night shift worker who'd let me out. I headed down the side hall that led toward the employee areas, the break room, offices, receiving dock. The hallway was dark. Not completely, but dimmer than it should have been. Some of the ceiling lights were off, others flickering. As I passed the employee break room, I glanced inside. Empty. No food containers, no chairs pulled out. No jackets on hooks, like no one had used it all day. I kept walking. When I reached the door marked staff only receiving, I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Hello, I'm stuck in here, I need to get out. Still nothing. I waited for a while, pacing that dim hallway. I started to feel something strange, not fear. Exactly, it was more like the sense of being watched. Not just that I was alone, but that someone or something knew I was alone. I decided to head back toward the front. Maybe try to find a landline or call someone else. But halfway down the hallway, the overhead speakers crackled. Just a burst of static. Then silence. I stubbed. There was no reason the intercom should still be on. The store was closed. The system should have been off with the rest of the power, including the sliding doors. I waited another 10 seconds. Nothing. Just before I turned the corner back into the main part of the store, I heard a soft noise from the other end of the hallway. A shuffle like a foot dragging along the tile. I turned around fast. No one there. I listened, frozen in place, my heart picked up. Not pounding, but no longer calm either. I stared down the dark hall and whispered, "Hello." No reply. I backed away slowly and re-entered the main floor. But something was different. The lights were dimmer now. The humming overhead fixtures that usually buzzed loudly were nearly silent. I looked down the grocery aisles and couldn't see the ends anymore. They were swallowed in shadow. Like the light just gave up halfway down. Then I noticed the TVs. The flat screens mounted high on the back wall above electronics were all on. Even though they'd been off earlier. They were displaying something. But not a show, not even a menu screen. It was footage, security footage. Each screen showed a different live camera angle. And I was on one of them. It was a high-angle shot, black and white, grainy. Me standing there looking up at the wall of TVs. I stared at it confused, then I glanced around, trying to figure out where the camera was located. When I looked back at the screen, my heart dropped. I wasn't alone on it anymore. There was someone standing about 15 feet behind me. I spun around instantly, looking behind me. No one was there. But I know what I saw on that screen, that grainy, black and white feed. There had been someone. A shape tall and motionless. It stood in the main aisle near the clothing section, just far enough away to make out its outline. Not its face, and it was behind me. I swear it was behind me. But now it was gone. I looked back at the screen, hoping I'd imagined it. Maybe it was an old feed, not live. Maybe it had glitched. But it hadn't. Now the screen showed an empty aisle, just like the one I was standing in. Then one by one, the TVs started to flicker. Not all at once, first the far left, then the next, like they were cycling. And each screen showed me again, but in a different location in the store. Walking down an aisle, standing in front of the frozen section. Pausing near the pharmacy counter. None of them were where I was actually standing. It was like the footage was a few minutes ahead. Or worse, like it was predicting where I'd be. I turned and walked fast, not quite running, back toward the center of the store. I felt the air change. It was cooler. And quieter, too quiet, like something was absorbing the sound. I stopped near the mannequins, the ones they put at the front of the clothing department. 2 women, 1 man, all dressed in spring sales outfits. I never liked them much, but now they felt worse than creepy. They felt wrong. Their glossy eyes and frozen grins seemed too sharp. Too knowing. I don't know how else to describe it. I looked away, but a moment later I heard a soft scrape behind me, like plastic sliding on tile. I turned slowly. One of the mannequins had shifted, just slightly, the male one. His arm was bent now, at a different angle than it had been before. I stepped closer, looked at his hand. It was open. When I'd passed him earlier, it had been clenched into a fist. I backed away fast. The ceiling speaker crackled again. Then a voice came through, not a recording, not automated. It whispered slowly, syllables drawn out like it was savoring them. "You're still here." I didn't even speak, I just ran. Full-on sprint, straight toward the back of the store. I didn't know where I was going, maybe the fire exit. Maybe the stockroom, anywhere but the sales floor. As I ran past the housewares aisle, every single overhead light flicked off in a wave behind me, one by one chasing me with darkness. I reached the heavy double doors that led to the back. They were chained shut. Not locked, chained, big industrial padlock and thick metal links like something out of a warehouse. No key panel, no emergency bar. They hadn't been like that before. I turned around, breath catching in my throat, and standing at the end of the hallway, just barely visible in the dim light of the emergency exit sign, was a shape. Tall Lane, wearing what looked like a hoodie, head down. Unmoving. I didn't speak, didn't breathe. I turned the corner into the adjacent corridor and ducked behind a row of pallets stacked with boxes of detergent. I waited. My heart was beating so loud I was afraid it might give me away. For what felt like an eternity, there was silence. Then I heard a tap just once, like a fingernail on metal, followed by slow, deliberate footsteps. The taps didn't echo, they were soft, heavy like something barefoot. I stayed hidden, barely moving. My muscles screamed to run, but I didn't. I just crouched there in the dark, barely holding it together. Eventually, the footsteps stopped. I waited 5 more minutes, maybe 10. Then I stood and crept toward the loading bay doors, staying low, trying to stay out of sight. When I reached them, I found the panic bar, slammed it with both hands. Nothing. No alarm, no click, no movement. Dead bolted from the outside. I turned and scanned the walls, looking for anything I could use, tools, a phone, something. Then I saw a small gray metal door with a label that read server room. I ran toward it and tried the handle. It opened. Inside was a small room filled with humming equipment. Wires and 2 computer monitors showing the store's camera feeds. Except the feeds weren't showing the store anymore. They were showing me. Every screen was locked on a different view of where I'd been over the last hour. Me running through the aisles. Me ducking behind the pallets. Me trying to push open the exit. And then, in one of the feeds, I saw something that made my knees nearly give out. There was a figure, standing behind the detergent pallets, right where I'd been crouching minutes earlier. It wasn't me, it was too tall, and its face was wrong. Stretched pale, like its skin didn't fit right. And its eyes were too big, wide open, no eyelids. The figure slowly turned and looked at the camera. Then the feed cut to black. All of them did. I backed out of the server room and stumbled into the hallway again. The lights were pulsing now, like breathing. I didn't even try to hide anymore. I ran through the back, through the empty aisles, toward the front. The mannequin was in the middle of the floor now. Not where I left it. Its head turned toward me. Then it smiled. I screamed and ran toward the pharmacy. Jumped the counter, crawled under a shelf, and curled up in the dark behind boxes of expired vitamins. I stayed there for hours. I must have passed out. Because when I opened my eyes again, sunlight was leaking in through the front windows. The store was quiet again. Normal. No figures, no whispers. The lights were back to full brightness. I stood, legs shaking, and walked toward the front entrance. The sliding doors opened. Just like that, I walked outside, blinking in the morning light. A few cars were pulling into the lot. Employees in blue vests were walking in, chatting, sipping coffee. No one asked me anything. I got in my car and drove home in silence. Later that day, I called the store and asked to speak to the night manager. They told me they didn't have one. That location didn't do overnight shifts anymore. I asked when that started. They said they stopped 24-hour service in 2020. I asked if the doors could ever be locked with someone inside. They said it wasn't possible. They sweep the store thoroughly every night. Lockdown procedures make sure no one's ever left behind. I didn't argue. I just hung up. That was a month ago. I haven't been back to Walmart since. But sometimes, late at night, I turn on the TV and see static for a second before my streaming app loads. And once, just once, I could have sworn I saw myself, standing in an aisle, with someone behind me. I got hired for the overnight shift at Walmart back in January of 2021, right when my life felt like it was quietly falling apart. I just moved back to my hometown in North Texas after some rough financial decisions and a breakup that left me questioning every choice I'd made since college. At 26, I felt stuck, and Walmart wasn't exactly the dream job, but it paid better than I expected. And working nights meant no customer interaction. Just peace, quiet, and a screen full of security camera feeds. They assigned me to the security monitoring room. It was small, basically a windowless box at the back of the store with 2 chairs. A locked door and 8 mounted monitors cycling through footage from 30 cameras. The entire store was under surveillance, front entrances, emergency exits, checkout lanes, stockrooms, frozen foods, bathrooms, only the outer doors, and even the back alley where trucks came in. The only blind spots were inside the restrooms and the employee locker area. The job was boring in the best way. There were usually 6 or 7 overnight staff in the store. Maria, the night supervisor, was the only manager. Then there were 2 stalkers, Kenny and Riza, a janitor named Rich, and sometimes 1 or 2 floaters, depending on the night. They all stayed busy, kept to themselves, and didn't bother me unless there was a cleanup call or theft alarm, which basically never happened at 3 a.m. I listened to music in one earbud, scrolled Reddit on my phone, and glanced up at the cameras every couple of minutes. I even brought in my own snacks and energy drinks to pass the long hours. That first week, totally uneventful. Until night 5. It was Tuesday, just after 3 a.m. I remember because I had just opened a warm Mountain Dew and was rubbing sleep from my eyes when I caught movement on camera 14, the seasonal aisle. Now, this was a weird aisle to see anyone in that late at night. It was the off-season, no major holidays coming up. Most of the shelves were stocked with leftover Valentine's Day junk, dusty pool inflatables, and half-empty shelves of clearance party favors. No one had any reason to be there, especially not during stocking rotations. I clicked on the feed to zoom in. At first, I thought I was looking at one of the night stalkers, maybe Kenny or Riza. But this guy, he wasn't moving. He was just standing with his back to the camera. His shoulders were hunched, his arms hung low and stiff, and he had his head tilted upward like he was reading a sign on the top shelf. He wore a dark hoodie, baggy jeans. No Walmart vest, no ID badge. I watched for maybe 30 seconds, waiting for him to move or reach for a box. He didn't, not even a twitch. Just stood there like a mannequin. It was honestly uncomfortable. I grabbed the radio. Hey, anyone in seasonal right now? No reply. Aisle 24, you stocking something there? Maria's voice crackled back after a few seconds. I'm near Home and Garden, seasonal's clear. I looked back at the screen. The man was still there. Then, without warning, he turned around. Not slowly, not naturally. He snapped into motion like a frame jump in a video. He faced the camera directly. His skin was white, I mean chalk white, pale like there was no blood in it. And his eyes were wide open, not blinking, just staring straight into the lens like he could see me through it. I froze, the hair on my arm stood up. Something about his expression, blank, but somehow intentional, made me deeply uncomfortable. I switched to camera 15, the next aisle over, trying to get a side view, empty. I flicked back to camera 14. Gone. There was no place to hide in that aisle. No end caps, no freezers to duck behind. He should have been there, but the entire row was empty again. I felt like I had just imagined it, but it had felt too real. Too vivid. I replayed the footage. He was there, then in the next frame, gone. No walking away, no blur, just not there anymore. I downloaded the clip to the system folder and made a note of it. Then I tried to forget about it. Told myself maybe it was a glitch, or a shadow, or maybe I was just too tired and my brain filled in the blanks. I really wish it had ended there. The next night I came in around 10:45 p.m. I was still thinking about that figure. Tried to joke about it to Maria, asking if she'd seen any creepy mannequins wandering around. She just laughed and said, if you start seeing ghosts, at least let me clock out first. By 2:45 a.m., the store was dead quiet. Cameras cycled, nothing weird. Then I saw it again, this time on camera 3, which faced the entrance to the men's restroom. The door opened. Slowly. I leaned in. It wasn't a hard swing, like someone pushing through. It was gentle, almost deliberate, but no one came out. I rewound the footage. It was closed. Then it opened about 6 inches on its own. Stayed like that for several minutes. Still, no one appeared. I radioed Rich, the janitor, who was working over by produce. Hey, did someone just go into the men's room? Not that I saw, he replied. It was closed when I walked by 10 minutes ago. A chill ran through me. I kept watching. 5 minutes passed, then 10, no one exited. Then on camera 6, located in the frozen foods aisle, I saw movement again. The same man from the night before stepped out from between two standing coolers. Same hoodie, same posture, same expressionless, pale face. This time he didn't even pretend to look at the shelves. He looked directly at the camera, dead on, as if he knew I was watching. I leaned back in my chair, goosebumps spreading over my arms. I grabbed the mouse to switch angles, but the screen flickered. Then the figure vanished. I radioed Maria again. Hey, you near frozen foods? Yeah, just walked past there. Why? Did you see anyone? No, it's dead in here. My hands were sweaty. I switched to playback, but this time the system froze. A little window popped up that said, "Segment unavailable, file corrupt." That had never happened before. Not even once. Our security software automatically saved everything in real time. There were no manual delete options unless you were an admin, and that wasn't me. But the clip was just gone, like it had never existed. By night 7, I wasn't sleeping well. I told myself it was just weird glitches, maybe hallucinations from too much caffeine and not enough rest. But I couldn't shake the image of that guy's eyes. The way he looked right into the lens like he could see me. I showed up for my shift determined to stay sharp. No energy drinks, no distractions. At exactly 3:33 a.m., something happened that made me never want to step foot in that room again. All the monitors went black just for a few seconds, maybe 4, maybe 5. When they came back, one of the screens, camera 31, was showing something I'd never seen before. It was the inside of the security room. It was me, sitting in the chair, looking at the monitor, just like I was right now. And behind me, just over my left shoulder in the reflection on the glass cabinet. He was there, standing, motionless, staring down at me. I spun around. No one there. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. I turned back to the screen. The feed was gone, just static. I radioed Maria, my voice shaking. Hey, are any of the cameras wired to this room? What? No, why? Forget it. I didn't sleep that morning. I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour before driving home, just replaying that moment again and again in my mind. The security camera had shown a live feed of me in real time, and something standing behind me that wasn't there when I turned around. That's when I knew. This thing, whatever it was, wasn't just being watched. It was watching back. I didn't want to go back the next night, but I needed the paycheck. Rent was due in a week, and I was already stretching what little I had left. I told myself I'd stay sharp, ignore the weird stuff, and just make it through the shift. No more obsessing over shadows or glitches or ghost stories. But something about the store felt different when I walked in. Colder, not physically colder, though the air in the security room did have a chill I hadn't noticed before. It was more like a heaviness in the air, like the weight of something watching. It wasn't paranoia, it was presence. You feel it in your chest before your mind catches up. I sat down, locked the door behind me, and kept the lights on this time. All the monitors were up and cycling as normal. Mario was already on shift, and I'd seen Rich heading toward the restrooms with his cart of supplies. Everything was quiet. I even checked the system logs to see if the camera that had shown the feed of me the night before had somehow been reprogrammed or hacked. But there was no trace of it. The file for that hour didn't exist. Like the system had skipped it altogether. At 3:19 a.m., I heard the first knock. It came from behind me, inside the wall. 3 soft knocks spaced evenly. I froze. The wall behind the desk wasn't connected to anything, just a shallow space that held wires and network cables. No vents, no crawl spaces. It was too tight for a person to fit in there. I didn't move for a full minute. I just stared at the monitors. Then it came again, 3 knocks, this time louder, closer. I stood up, heart racing, and backed toward the door. Suddenly, the overhead speaker, the one used only for daytime announcements, crackled to life with a burst of static. And then a voice, male, quiet, distorted. Stop watching. It wasn't Maria, it wasn't anyone I recognized. The voice was deep but hollow, like it was coming from the other side of a tunnel. I grabbed the radio. Who just used the intercom? No reply. I repeated myself louder. Is someone on the speaker? Maria answered after a pause. No one's on the mic. What did you hear? I didn't respond. I didn't want to say it out loud. Instead, I opened the security room door and looked out into the hallway. Empty. But then I noticed something, a smear, just above the door handle on the inside. Like a handprint, but longer than normal. 4 fingers, no thumb, greasy. Like something had touched it and left behind an oily residue. I reached out and touched it. It was warm. I wiped my hand on my pants and slammed the door shut again. Locked it, sat down and stared at the screen showing the hallway outside. I didn't blink for a long time. At 3:46 a.m., all the monitors went black. This time they stayed off for 10 full seconds. When they came back, every screen was showing the same thing. Camera 29, the walk-in freezer in the back of the store. And inside it was Maria. She was just standing there, frozen still. Her back to the door, her head was tilted like she was listening to something. Her eyes wide, mouth open slightly. Behind her was the man, or the thing, standing only a few inches away from her. Facing her back, his face just barely visible behind her shoulder. He was whispering something. I couldn't hear anything, the cameras didn't have audio, but you could tell by the way his jaw moved. It wasn't random, he was saying something. I jumped up and grabbed the radio. "Maria, where are you?" No answer. "Maria, answer me right now." Nothing. I ran out of the room, through the hallway, past the break room, down toward the freezer. I didn't care if I got fired. I had to check, I needed to know she was okay. When I reached the freezer door, I took a deep breath and pulled it open. Empty. No Maria, no figure. I stepped inside, cold air blasted me in the face. The interior lights flickered once, then held steady. The shelves were lined with boxes of frozen pizzas, bags of fries, plastic tubs of cookie dough. No sign anyone had been in there recently. I turned around and stepped back out and nearly screamed. Maria was standing there just outside the freezer, looking at me with a confused expression. "You good?" she asked. "You look like you saw a ghost." I saw you in there," I said, pointing back toward the freezer. "On the cameras, there was someone behind you." Her brow furrowed. "I haven't been near the freezer all night. I've been helping Kenny with stocking and toys." I didn't say anything, I just walked past her and back to the security room. My hands were shaking. When I got there, every screen was normal again. No sign of the freezer footage. The logs showed no camera changes. No manual overrides. Everything looked like it had been cycling the usual feed the whole time. I sat down and stared at the screens for the next hour. My phone stayed in my pocket. My drinks untouched, I was locked in, focused. Then at 4:58 a.m., the store phone rang. No one ever called that line. It was a direct extension only used by day shift supervisors or occasionally loss prevention at other branches. I picked it up. "Security," I said. Silent. I could hear breathing. Then a low voice, the same one from the intercom. "I told you to stop." Click. I slammed the phone down and backed away from the desk. I grabbed my stuff, opened the door, and walked straight out of the store. Didn't say goodbye, didn't clock out, just left. That was my last shift. I never went back, I didn't even pick up my last paycheck. A week later, I got a call from a different number. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail saying the store had temporarily closed for maintenance and that all employees would be reassigned. I never followed up. Months later, I checked online. The store reopened after 6 weeks with all new management and an entirely new overnight crew. People on Reddit said it seemed normal, just another Walmart. Except one thread stood out. A user had posted in a local subreddit asking if anyone had experienced anything strange at the location. He said he worked night security there for a week before quitting without explanation. His post ended with a line that made my blood run cold. "Something watches from the cameras at night. Not a glitch, not a prank, it knows when you're watching." The account was deleted the same day.